Hi everyone. Welcome to the today's webinar on process intelligence and how we can make RPA a sustainable and successful journey using process intelligence. Today we have got Greg from Timeline PI. He has recently joined Timeline PI and he has 20 years of experience in leading business transformation and leading high performing teams. He has been involved in a lot of organization-wide change strategies and delivering quantifiable business outcomes. I would like to invite Greg to the webinar. And Greg, thank you for joining us. I will appreciate if you can speak a couple of, a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Mohit. Thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. Yeah, as per Mohit's introduction, I'm involved in leading operational teams in both the financial services and technology services and professional services areas, as well as looking and working with organizations on organizational change. That ranges initially from process improvement to process optimization, and more recently into intelligent automation and robotic process automation. So some really exciting times, and also more recently, as Mohit has alluded to, I've joined Timeline PI and am leading this region in terms of the promotion and delivery of the Timeline PI process intelligence platform.
Craig, very exciting time for both RPA and process intelligence. I think it is inevitable that no RPA can succeed unless we do a proper due diligence of the process which we want to automate. And the process intelligence becomes a major consideration for selecting the process for automation. So recently, Abby has acquired Timeline PI. Abby has been quite well-known tool in the market for scanning and for OCR. And most of the RPA tools are now integrating with Abby, and hopefully they will also integrate with the Timeline PI in the near future. I think it's a very exciting time for you, Greg, with Abby and Timeline being acquired. We'll cover this during our course of our webinar. So Jackie, next slide. So we have a agenda for this webinar, and the session one is what is process intelligence. So Craig, everybody has got different definition of process intelligence. Can you please let us know what you think is the real definition of process intelligence and how you see in light of or in perception of RPA?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, process intelligence is a very new field, relatively new. It has its foundations in traditional process mining. However, the founders of Timeline PI both have backgrounds and a long history in the software services sector within both the business intelligence, BPM, business process management, and intelligent automation space. And what they've found and to transition through into Timeline PI is a tool set that enables organizations to reconstruct their original process instances or execution paths step by step from system event data left behind when and where that process step was performed. It transcends past the traditional process schema approach. And as you'll see as we progress beyond and through this webinar, there's a multitude of out-of-the-box process analysis tool sets that enable us to identify bottlenecks, where things are taking place, where the best options are for identifying automation candidates. So really broad range of tool sets that enable businesses on their process intelligence, their process improvement, process optimization, transformation, and intelligent automation journeys. So as you can see from the poll, there's many methods of which organizations are currently using to discover processes that can be automated. But there are real challenges across all of those. So really good option here for us to understand more around what you're doing in discovering and identifying processes for automation.
I think yes, every client of ours or organization who is taking the RPA journey have got various ways of identifying the process, mostly led by business owners, or they engage external consulting firms, or they have a COE set up, or and then they pick the process. So we'll be interested to know what the outcome of this poll is. Jackie. So Greg,
Brilliant.
your view on this?
Yeah, no, I do agree on it. I think the Center of Excellence, the COEs are popping up, are not popping up, but they are being established in the enterprise space and are existing in the enterprise space. However, those centers of excellence have fantastic skill sets, be they the analysts, be they the Six Sigma lean practitioners. But at the end of the day, we are still seeing those practitioners and analysts having to then go back down into the business owners, the process owners, and use very traditional methods in identifying the current state, and then from that current state, sifting through what is fact, what is what is the real scenario, and then bringing that back and analyzing to determine what that future state could be and what areas they could actually apply robotic process automation or other intelligent automation technologies.
I think this poll outcome also shows the maturity of the organizations who are taking RPA journey. I think
Correct.
Most of the participants have set up the COE, which they use to identify the process. I have put the fourth option random as just for on the lighter sense, because some of our clients just give a process for automating without going through the process of putting all the parameters in place for selection. But I think I'm very happy with the outcome of this poll result, which shows that the clients are becoming more mature. So let's go to the next slide, Jackie. About the agenda, we missed this particular slide. So I just want to, Greg, if you're okay, just set up the agenda for this webinar. So we all are on the same page. Like we have in the introduction, session 1 is what is PI. 2 is why we require PI for RPA. Number 3 session is how it works. The most important session is demonstration, because we want to show how it works, and we want to show a demonstration of the tool doing that process. Number 5 is use cases, and then Q&A, and we'll have polls around various questions during the webinar. So, Craig, let's go to what is PI. You have covered one slide on that. Jackie, can you go to the slide? This one. So, Craig, you have covered most of this thing already. You want to walk through this slide, or?
Well, at the end of the day, it's about identifying what is actually taking place within the organization based on your system data. It's empowering everyone with the organization, be that from the team leaders to the process owners to the automation teams to the center of excellence, to identify where we can create efficiencies, where we can create organizational effectiveness, enterprise automation, and combining them all together to provide some real good performance management success and goals.
Jackie, next slide.
This is an interesting slide in the sense that we're seeing in process and in different sectors there are unique process use cases, right? We don't have to be rocket scientists to determine whether that insurance is different to health, different to financial services. But if we take a real holistic view of it, the big challenge here is that each one of these organizations and sectors are looking for, let's say, 3 main categories of it. They're looking for innovation, they're looking for a better customer experience for their customers, and they're also looking for efficiency. However, to obtain that, there are multiple systems, and the challenges in with the systems, the silos within the organizations, and very difficult to get a holistic end-to-end view of your process execution. And that's where timeline PI or process intelligence comes in and tries to bridge, or does bridge, the gap by using the system data, irrespective of department, irrespective of system, to actually string together and bookend the start and the end of that process, be that in the healthcare sector, be that in government services, be that in financial services or insurance claims, or any other industry segment. The big challenge is getting a data-driven insight that you can depend on to actually make some decisions on what you're going to optimize, what you're going to change, and what you're going to automate. As I alluded to in my previous slide, the real questions that people are seeking on the right: where are we providing rework around efficiency? Where's our manual steps? How high is our automation rate? And very importantly, where are the bottlenecks and where are the deviations in the process? Because we can have many very, very smart, experienced process analysts, but we all tend to focus on the happy path, the current state, and a few variations. But what we're seeing, and I think we'll cover this a bit later, is that in the RPA space, we're now starting to see a lot of those variations that weren't potentially uncovered, causing a few headaches further down the track. And in order for us to obtain and answer these questions, we have currently a bunch of tools available, and the 4 blocks on the left are by no means a definitive list, but we have our manual approaches. We have great BI tools available. However, BI tools don't really have a concept of process steps. If we look at BPM platforms or ERPs or CRMs, they're fantastic in what they own and control, but that's all they see and control, and they rarely cover the end-to-end process execution. In process mining, look, Timeline PI has its heritage in process mining, very effective, but it's not based, process intelligence is not based around a schema. It's a lot more in depth and granular, and provides a lot more insights into what, a lot more insights are required to actually address the questions on the right-hand side. Thanks, Jackie.
So, Craig, when the Timeline PI was founded, what gap the founders saw in the market, which was addressed by Timeline PI?
Right. So the founders, as I mentioned, they've had long histories in the software space, been in the BI space, been in the BPM space, starting to look at intelligent automation, and by trying to bring traditional BI and marrying it back to BPM and intelligent automation, there was a mismatch there. They really didn't struggle, but saw an opportunity to say, well, hang on a second, let's go beyond traditional BI. Let's go beyond, and this is not poo-pooing BI. BI is fantastic. It's a case of, well, hey, how do we actually create a specialized advanced analytics application that addresses process and assists organizations raise their process IQ or their process intelligence? Because by raising your process IQ, you'll be much better informed with the data-driven insights to make and affect sustainable change within your organization.
So, Craig, it also throws to our next poll, like the companies are using various tools for their automation and digital journey, apart from the RPA tool like Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, UiPath. So, audience, this is a poll for you guys to rate or put your opinion, which tools you are using currently for your journey. So it can be a BPM tool, it can be a SharePoint, or workflow management, or you're yet to make a decision to capture all the information required for a process intelligence to make your RPA success. So, Craig, what you are seeing in the market, what are the companies using tools, like as per your views,
Well, first and foremost, we're seeing a lot more focus being brought back on what we traditionally used to call OCR. We're seeing a lot more organizations looking at the content, not only coming in paper-based, but also the content sitting in their data repositories and trying to extracting the intelligence and the content from that. Because at the end of the day, intelligent automation or BPM or workflow management is all based on content and information and data. And getting that data right is so key critical for the upstream processes to be kicked off. So we're seeing a lot more of that. BPM, which is not it's coming through in the poll, is still the forefront of focus in many and organizations. Obviously, we're trying to take manual steps and automate those steps, i.e. take a manual bunch of papers and create a digital workspace for our staff to use. So yeah, it's that's what I'm seeing there is not too dissimilar to what I'm experiencing in the market.
I think this poll splits out the companies using BPM the most currently. I've seen companies using APN or Selenos type of tools for BPM. Even Pega has been used in the RPA journey. No, it's very interesting to see the outcome. So, Craig, to keep in view the time requirement for this webinar, let's move to the next session. Why we need process intelligence for RPA? What are your views on that?
I think, well, not think, but the view on RPA is that we can get caught up in a lot of time looking at what can be automated and what should be automated. I don't think there's too much doubt that there's a lot of activities, tasks, process steps, events that we can automate. There's a lot of cool technology out there that can do that for you. But I think the second question is the real one we need to start asking ourselves in terms of what should be automated. And that then raises some other issues around what is that based on? Is it based on time, cost, risk? And that's a really key element that we need to identify. And then the third step in terms of what do you automate? Have we handled all the variations? Because at the end of the day, we can only automate what we know. And based on current tool sets and processes being carried out, a lot of it is very subjective. And this is no disrespect to anyone or any teams or technologies or methodologies. It's a case of, hey, we are going out there, finding data and obtaining data based on what people know in our business today. And I think that's really key. We're seeing a lot of RPA early adopters really struggling a little bit with those variations 3, 6, 12 months down the track. And then once we've actually kicked off some automation, how do we know that it is working? How are we doing cost benefit realization on a monthly, 3 monthly, 6 monthly basis? Do we know? Are we continually monitoring our process events? Do we have a benchmark of what the performance was prior to us kicking off any transformation or RPA activity? And I think what you'll see out of Timeline PI is we have the ability to actually create that benchmark and then continually monitor and also set a bunch of KPIs, both for your internally or for you to be working with your service providers to make sure that there is a cost benefit realization that is in line with what you thought you were going to achieve at the outset. And very importantly, is the automation doing what it is intended, and does it have any impact on any of the other processes? So in a nutshell, that's where we see the importance of process intelligence on RPA and intelligent automation. Next slide, Jack. Right, and could you flick on it, Jackie, please? Just one quick last poll before we crack into some real deep information around Timeline PI. We're really keen to understand those who have already kicked off some RPA initiatives in your organization, just to understand how you're tracking.
I think like everybody's having a multiple level or multiple speed or experience of the RPA journey in the organization. It all depends upon what is the involvement of business or IT in the RPA journey in any organization. So I would like to understand, like this poll is, objective of this poll is to understand what has been the outcome of organization who have taken the journey of RPA, and is the process or methodology they are following is optimal, or they have to fine tune it to get more success. And sometimes, Greg, I think when the clients are doing RPA without using PI tool or without investigating or doing a due diligence on the process, okay.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because there was a really good quote I saw from one of the professional services companies, was that around RPA, pilots never fail, but programs seldom scale. And I think that's just a really good insight as to the challenges that people are facing today with that journey.
Yeah, I think like also this poll, if we analyze this poll, I think only 17% are meeting their exceeding the expectations. Maybe they have chosen the simple process which doesn't require too much of due diligence or PI, compared to 33% of audience here who have chosen a bit moderate to complex process for automation.
Yeah,
I think it's a good analysis here. I think scaling, and I totally agree with you, scaling up is a major hurdle we have seen in the organization, because scaling up requires a huge discipline and governance in an organization. But I think it's also give us a very insight that the audience is too early for them to evaluation. Also, half of them are currently it's too early for them for evaluation. But I think it's good outcome we're seeing in this poll. Jackie, next session.
Right. So what I'm going to do here is this is the precursor to us jumping into the actual application. So I'm going to be pretty quick on these slides, because you'll see this once we crack into the demonstration. So Timeline PI is a data-driven platform requiring data from your system. There are three unique identifiers, three unique mandatory fields that we require: the date, the unique identifier, and a process step. And we can add additional attributes to those. And with those additional attributes, they provide more granular insights into your processes and how they're being executed. Thanks, Jackie.
Now we'll be showing you a demo of Timeline PI. Sorry, after this slide.
Yeah, there's a couple more slides which I'm going to fly through, because it just sets up the pillars of Timeline PI, which we will actually see once we actually crack into the demonstration. So Jackie, I'm going to fly through these quite quickly. The first pillar within Timeline PI is around what is my process. Can you pop the next slide up, please? And then from that, we can get out of the box representations from the data that we've uploaded, covering multitude analysis tool sets. Thanks, Jackie. The second pillar is, once we've actually identified what is your process, we then start to look at how are your processes performing. And this is really key when we start to look at standard operating procedures, risk, compliance, etc. Jackie, can you pop the next slide up? So we can start measuring, monitoring, and acting really quickly based on rules, based on alerts, based on information that is popping up in our face where certain criteria is not meeting what that process is, the process flow that process ought to be taking. Thanks, Jackie. And then we start getting into the ongoing monitoring and what's going to happen in the future. So this is all around where once we've started collecting data and we've have both kicked off some initiatives and some RPA or transformation tasks, we then start looking at what's going to happen in the future. Next slide, Jackie. And once we start gaining this data, we can then start looking at some forecasting models, like in a hospital or a healthcare sense, is this patient going to be admitted? Is this insurance claim going to be denied? Et cetera, et cetera. And finally, we're then going to be moving into the whole prescriptive intelligence in terms of what's my next best action. So further down the track, we can then start deriving rules and conditions within Timeline PI to assist staff in making and ensuring that the next best activity they do is the right one. And this is where a lot of the RPA stuff comes in terms of, oh, we know the next step is a fraud check. Well, we're going to kick off through the API a digital worker to actually go and carry out that fraud check for us, because then we know that's a task that can be automated for us through a RPA tool set. Thanks, Jackie. And at the end of the day, those 4 pillars make up a process command or control center, or an interactive digital twin of exactly, or of showing you exactly what is taking place within your organization, with real-time monitoring and alerting. And at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be real-time. It depends on the time criticality of the process use case. But we're putting that up there to show that there is the real-time monitoring and alerting capability. But I think we've spoken enough now around what it looks like. I think we need to crack into the actual demonstration itself.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg. So, Jackie, let's start the demo. So, Craig, since she's putting the demo, can we discuss about our integration of Timeline PI with various RPA tools in the market?
Yeah, certainly. So Timeline PI has is an open system that can connect into a multitude of applications via API, webhooks, etc. And we have carried out some pretty well publicized integration with the likes of Blue Prism. However, there's also a lot of other integration currently taking place with other tool sets such as UiPath. So yes, and that integration is both, as I alluded to earlier, kicking off a digital worker based on a known state or a known event that needs to take place, as well as actually monitoring those digital workers to make sure, just like knowledge workers, that they are actually performing as you would expect. So those are the 2 main integration points that we are working with the RPA toolsets.
And do you foresee you integrating with various other BPM tools also, like APN and
yeah, absolutely.
Other ones?
We've already integrated with there's some work done with APN. We've got direct integration with ServiceNow, which is quite exciting to see how a case management process flow transcends within Timeline PI, and it's providing insights that those BPM platforms don't traditionally provide out of the box. So some really exciting stuff happening all the time in the integration space, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that and make some further announcements in the not too near future. Right, so what we're going to do today, everyone, is we're going to walk through a customer onboarding process use case. Admittedly, it's for credit cards. And what we see here in front of us is the main user interface for Timeline PI. What it's showing us is that we've uploaded 110 days worth of data. And within that data set that we've uploaded was 37,000 process steps or events, as Timeline PI calls them. From those events, we've created, or Timeline PI has created, 3,275 timelines, which are in essence end-to-end process flows. So 3,275 credit card onboarding process flows. Below here, we see a graph showing a spread of timelines over the duration of those 110 days, just so we can see some peaks and troughs. And also down the bottom here, we can see some insights around your last and your first events. So from this, we can immediately see some insights showing that not every case starts with an application received, nor does every last event in the process flow end with card activated. So some immediate insights there. To the left, we can see that Timeline PI has actually identified 18 different events that could take place at any given time. And we can click on those and show, well, verifications is the event that has the most occurrences, followed by fraud and credit check, which is a big thumbs up to that organization. So those are the 18 different events, but from those 18 different events, we can see on average, there's 11 different events that take place. Now, if we look across the top ribbon here, a couple of insights, we can show you and or tell you from the data that's been uploaded, your average process flow takes 3 days in duration. And if we click on that, it shows you a lovely spread of your fastest to your longest process flow. So we can see that your quickest onboarding is 23.05 hours and your longest is 22.7 days. And if we drag across, we can start doing some filtering and some analysis on that data immediately. So if we wanted to say, well, okay, let's look at everything over 5 days, we can quickly just go days. I can put 5, and it's going to give me and show me that we've got 474 of those, or 14.5% that takes longer than 5 days. And if we apply that filter, which I'm not going to do right now because we'll get into the filtering, if we apply that filter, everything in my analysis tool set will apply to those 474 applications. Likewise, we have costs. Now, everyone's going to say, well, where did the costs come from? So we don't upload any costs. This is a bit of work we do, configuration work we do with our customers to identify where are the costs within your process use case. And we can capture or select one or many different process steps, and we can either apply a fixed cost or a time-based cost. And I'll quickly show you that. Let's click on to a require more information. We've said that that's a time-based cost. It's reliant on a specific subsequent event, and that rate is 0.27 dollars an hour. Pretty cheap, if you ask me. But then, if it was a fixed cost, we could do exactly the same fixed cost. And if you have different providers providing these services, such as, say, for example, shipping or freight, we can do a lookup table to make sure that the right cost appears for that right services provider. So quite comprehensive cost configurations. Once we've done the cost configuration, we can show that your cost to serve over 110 days is $586,000. And your average cost per process flow is $179. And if I click on that, likewise, we can see your minimum cost is $13 all the way up to $2,395. We also have the ability to look at some percentiles, your 75th percentile, your 90th percentile, and your min and max. We also right here, depending on the additional attributes that we've brought into the application, we can select some dimensions right here to say, well, we want to see, is this per channel? Is it a risk level, card, processor, region? Well, if we wanted to quickly have a look at channel, we can click on look on that. And all of a sudden, we can now start looking and going, well, yeah, what does mobile look like? Pretty similar, internal web. So we've got some analysis now on our different channels and do some comparative analysis immediately around, are these costs determined by any immediate factor that we can identify? If I close that, Timeline PI now will also take all your data that you've uploaded and actually create a holistic view of your process flow. And what we can see here is a schema view of your end-to-end onboarding process. We have the ability to put some milestones in there to show, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger if you don't mind, show the throughput. We can actually show the number of transitions going through, And also, if we look at time, we can then start looking at the time taken between different events. And the thicker the line, the longer the time taken. And what we can also do, which is pretty cool, is actually animate this for you. So if we played that, we can now start seeing little bubbles flowing through our schema, which is actually every dot is an end-to-end process flow. So we can now see an interactive view of our processes. I'm going to stop that and actually start them at a common start, because this will show how things flow through your business. We'll see them aging as they change color, as well as bottlenecking as they slow down. And this provides some real cool insights or representation of what that looks like. Sorry, I'm just missing it. There we go. We also have the ability to actually drill down here. If I wanted to have a quick look at that little bubble there, I can click on that. And what that's going to do, it's going to take me straight to that individual process flow, or timeline, as Timeline PI terms it. We will see also by clicking on the icons, all the data attributes that are additional to the mandatory fields are displayed, and we can see the gaps as well as also the sub-processes taking place either concurrently or in parallel to within this process flow. So at the end of the day, we can exactly identify exactly what's happening on, and on the right-hand side here, some insights around the duration of that process flow and the exact cost of that individual process flow. So some real great insights to actually provide and assist your BAs, your practitioners in identifying current state and drilling down to understand exactly what's going on. Now, this view is all very cool to look at processes from a holistic view, but becomes a little bit difficult. And this is your traditional process mining view, right? So it becomes a little bit more difficult when we start to identify, well, so where do we start applying some RPA, some intelligent automation, some optimization? And this is where Timeline PI's path analysis really comes to the fore. And for me, this is one of the most powerful features of the tool set. If I click on the path analysis, this shows me every single process execution path, every variation to your process. So right now we can see that there are 12 alternate paths that your credit card onboarding process could follow. We have 25% of them following the lovely happy path, and as we can see there, that's all nice and linear, and obviously an area where we can start identifying some RPA candidates, automation candidates. However, we also can find out, we can also see further down here that we've got 18% of the time, 18% of your process flows are costing you 189K as opposed to 139K for 25%. So there's obviously some inefficiencies here, and we can also identify from the bouncing backwards and forwards that things don't look right. If we wanted to have a look at this in terms of a schema view, very simple. We click on the actual schema, and we can then see every single one of them again in the schema or path view. Now, schema view is, I suppose, something that we're all used to looking at based on Visio, etc., etc. But in terms of, once again, back to effectiveness and efficiency, the path view is very key for me. So we've looked at cost. We can also identify average duration. So all of a sudden now we can see that we've got 18% of our processes taking 5 days, 6 hours, as well as they are costing, most probably on average, more than what 25% are costing as a total cost to serve. So if we click on that which we want to identify, we can apply that filter. Now, what you see is immediately your data set is reduced to only those within that analysis set, and everything else within the tool set itself only applies to that filter. So now, if we want to do a bit of a deeper dive on that, and we want to identify what's happening, we can actually click on our breakdown. I don't like looking at processes first. We can identify what card. Is it a card that's causing this? Is it a channel, a region? And this is really important when we start looking at root cause analysis. Where are we going to focus? If we go to processes, we can upload that. And we can see that Aaron Parsons is processing the majority of those applications that are taking that costly path. Now, just before we move on, you can see that in terms of the data sets or the additional data attributes that we've uploaded, the only one that we've uploaded really that has personally identifiable information is processor. So certain organizations, and rightly so, are very concerned about security, and we have tools to cleanse all this data, and we can actually take away any personal. First of all, we don't recommend any customer or personal identifiable information be uploaded, but if you do want to put in staff, we can actually cleanse that and mask that as something else. So if we wanted to have a quick look at Aaron Parsons and see, well, let's have a look at Aaron. Well, Aaron's total cost to serve, his average is $93 per process flow. He's still kind of on par with the duration. But we want to dive deeper into his timelines. And this is another feature of Timeline PR, which is pretty unique, where we can actually drill down into every single one of those 280 process flows that Aaron actually processed. And we can do some alignment if we wish. If we want to align by the first event, or if we want to align by we can actually start looking at certain events and seeing the gaps between these events in terms of how Aaron's processing the actual applications. And likewise, if we click on that, we can then get into granular insights as to exactly what is taking place within that process flow. And once again, all the time and the duration and the costs appear on the right. So some fantastic insights around what is taking place in the business.
Greg, can you show us some reports from this tool, like what type of reports can be generated for CXOs or the process engineers?
Yeah, certainly. But before I get there, what I want to do is just, if you don't mind there, Mohit, one tool, once we've actually done some analysis on what we're going to look at, we can actually go identify exactly, and this is a report, I suppose it's to your point, but it's actually it's a tool that provides insights for us to use. So we can actually have a look at some bottleneck analysis, and bottleneck analysis can be determined between time from an event, time from a previous event, time between events, or the cost. And if we look at the time between events, this is really kind of a modeling tool set for us to identify and work on to say, well, where's the time being taken in this application onboarding process? Well, it's been taken between processor assigned and verifications, and 22% of all the time in your process flows are attributed to that step. So, and it takes 28 hours, 29. And if we think that we could reduce that to 15, well, you know, we're going to contribute or bring back 33,000 hours back into the business. So some real cool what if scenario planning ability, which is kind of not a report, but a tool set for us to actually work with either ourselves, our COEs, our process owners, and also our services providers. Likewise, if we start to build a business case, we can start looking at where's our cost. Well, processor science, surprise, surprise, you know, there's a real candidate here for some optimization, intelligent RPA. Average cost is 144. If we took that down to that, well, you know, we're going to save close to $250,000 or bring back $250,000 or $2,000 and $4,000 back into the business. So some real cool abilities to actually dive down into showing you where we should apply people, resource, and technology. And once we actually start kicking off some initiatives, this is where the KPI model comes in, and we start looking at side-by-side analysis, where we could say, well, look, we've kicked off some initiatives, some RPA, and prior to us kicking that off, we created a data set that had 1,742 process flows in it, And what we can see in our current set, which let's say is 3 months or a couple of months after our project kickoff, we've increased our data set, we've reduced our average duration of process, we've eliminated a process step, and we've also reduced the cost. So a real great ability for us to say, well, hey, look, what we're doing within the business or within the COE is actually really tangible, and we're bringing real benefits back to the business. So, hey, can we get some budget to actually do some more initiatives? And once again, we have, a bit of reporting on analysis tools, and we can actually see where our time is being saved and during that course of that period. We can do some filters on that to really get into some deep down analysis views of what we have done. Mohit, to your point, we have the ability to open some workflows, or we have the ability to provide some dashboarding based on the where's the dashboarding?
So Greg, when you integrate with a Blue Prism or UiPath automation anyway, those integration-led reports will be in their respective tools, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we don't take anything from the systems of record, such as say a Blue Prism or a UiPath. However, what we can show is we could actually show, the time range between events. If one of these events is a RPA associated event, such as a fraud or a credit check, we can actually start looking at that event and actually comparing it between what the digital workers are doing and what the knowledge workers are doing, to actually really identify exactly where the benefit is and what the value is of those digital workers.
I think, Greg, to be honest, 20 minutes time for this demonstration doesn't justify all the features of this tool.
Absolutely. We could spend a lot of time on here.
Yeah. So like I remember having this demo for more than 1 hour in the past. So audience, I will request you, if you want to have a full demo, please let us know, and we will put you across to Craig or the respective local representative of Timeline PI. I think it's worthwhile having a demo in a full sense. 20 minutes is very, very small time to go into deeper into this tool.
Absolutely. And look, we haven't touched on the deadlines and the alerting, the protocols, which are really important, where we're driving standard operating procedure and service level monitoring. There's a lot of stuff that we haven't covered, and I totally agree with you. Look, let's keep it on track in terms of, hey, we can identify all the variations, we can discover your processes, and we can also identify where things are not really taking place as intended or as they should, and the ability to filter down and really take a deep dive into those areas of your process execution.
So, Greg, in lieu of time consideration, can we request you to showcase the use cases now?
Yes, certainly. Jackie, you want to pop back to your screen to the tool, to the presentation?
So, last poll of this webinar, before we do the use cases, Greg, the poll is that how you think process knowledge is very important for RPA to become a success. Very important, not important, or agnostic. And what is your views, Greg, on this particular poll?
Well, I don't want to influence the poll, but my views are pretty much, there's a lot of things in business or in process that can be automated. However, having a deep down knowledge of exactly how your processes are being executed in terms of time and cost is so important for us to identify where we should be applying these technologies, because we want to get bang for buck. It's not anymore the squeaky wheel gets the oil. We need to do some more analysis of that process, because we could be applying a lot of time and money to a certain area that's not going to return the same as a small change in another area that might return massive benefits around customer experience, efficiency, and cost reduction.
Okay. Jackie, the results? I think, Greg, you have influenced them already.
Yeah.
So I think this poll was just rain check on how much awake the audience are in the webinar. So I think they're fully awake. Thank you all. But see, I think we want to cover use cases. So Craig, please cover the use case now, and the audience.
Yeah, sure.
We will be sharing this deck with you. So in case we are not able to cover the use case fully, you can always access the use case, our deck in the future. And also, we will be happy to put you across to Craig or their local rep in the geographical region they are to help you on your more queries on this particular tool. Craig, over to you for the use cases.
Sure. So the use cases, as we looked through that slide with all these sectors before, the use cases are very much around process discovery and process conformance or compliance. At the end of the day, those are the two areas where we're seeing most organizations looking to, I want to understand exactly how we carry out our processes. And second of all, we want to make sure that we're not exposed to any risk, particularly in financial services, government services. We want to make sure that what we say we're doing, we are doing. And between these two, the consumer packaged goods and the large insurer, very much about prioritizing where we want to actually focus our energies. We want to identify where our non-standard execution paths are taking place. Where are we actually spending money that we ought not to be spending money on, rework, on cancellations, etc., etc. So some really, very, very what may appear to be pretty simple, but really important use cases, very holistic across most sectors and most process flows, end-to-end process flows, but people are still battling to actually get these insights to assist them make those decisions. Can we jump on to the next slide? Yeah.
So Craig, in the process discovery, does this tool sit on the laptop or desktop of the agent or the doer, process executor?
The Timeline PI is a fully cloud-hosted application, and users subscribe to the service. Timeline PI's licensing model is all around number of projects and the process events that you're uploading into the system. There is no restriction, and I'll say this with a caveat, there is no restriction on number of user licenses. So if any worker can get access to a browser and has a license, they can log in to view their process flows. However, the caveat is we recommend that we don't go and push this out to everyone, and I think that's telling you something you already know. We really tie it down with rights and permissions as to who we want to see the data and what are their actions within the business. Are they around looking for automation candidates? Are they looking at process compliance and conformance? Or are they line managers, team leaders, etc., that are looking to use Timeline PI as a kind of flight control center to actually manage that end-to-end process and execution?
Thank you very much, Craig. Next use case.
We've jumped a slide there. Jackie, no, can you go back one, please? Yeah, and once again, just the other use case there that we spoke about, very key in financial services, compliance, audit, GDPR, all those aspects are providing a much higher burden on compliance within these organizations, and the protocol tool or the query tool and the alerting tool and the deadline tool that Timeline PI offers is proving very valuable for these organizations. It's no use getting an alert when something has not happened. The deadline tool allows us to create that alert when it's due in 2 hours, for example. So the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff is now being brought further up the cliff for us to actually make sure that we do not, we execute our processes within our SLAs and within the standard operating procedures that we need to. Next slide, please, Jackie. So,
Craig, I also want to. So again, I think the topic of the slide covers my question, but again, we want to just cover as we're closing out in next 3 minutes about RPA integration with process timeline PI.
Yeah, sure. So look, I'm sure you've seen from today, it's not all around process excellence, but it's also around process innovation, identifying areas for RPA, intelligent automation, and however, the actual pillars all remain the same in the sense that we first need to discover where we need to address or what we need to address, analyze how we're going to address it, and then carry out some optimization and monitoring of the actions that we actually take in place. And those optimization actions could be, and very often are, your RPA and intelligent automation activities. If we want to flick onto the next slide, Jackie. In terms of accelerating enterprise RPA, we're seeing, my personal experience is dramatically reducing the time on assessing your current state. It's a real time to value tool set. It also allows you to actually identify every single process variation so we don't have any nasty surprises a couple of months or down the track. We can see where the bottlenecks are. We can see where the missequenced execution and high cost variance are taking place. So a fantastic ability to identify exactly what's going on and where and how we're going to apply that RPA. And once again, once we apply the technologies, we then can use timeline PI to monitor and alert, depending on on predefined rules and instances that we can set up to detect and also trigger off additional steps that may need to be taken place, may need to take place. So really good, not only from the process discovery, but also from the ongoing process monitoring and alerting.
Sure. Next slide, Jackie. We have 1 minute left. I think we already. So last poll, we want to understand what's the biggest challenge your journey, RP journey is facing.
Yeah, my view on I don't want to influence the attendees, but you know, there's no shortage of real good buzzwords and really cool technologies out there. But the real challenge is you know, identifying where you're going to get your bang for buck. Where, you know, it's hard to get funds to apply technology in the best of times, but we want to make sure that we actually utilize those funds to address the specific areas in our business where we can actually see real tangible results in a really quick time frame.
So let's see the poll result, Jackie. I think
Wow.
This need to be qualified to have, again, make a real sense. But I think looking at some of our clients in their journey, they were not sure they should start in HR, they should start in the captive center, or the process they have outsourced to an offshore destination. And I think it depends upon every company's drivers, what drives them for automation or efficiency, customer experience, cost reduction, process efficiency. I think the answer will differ from each organization as per their requirements. But again, I would like to thank you, Craig, for your time today for this webinar. I think it was very informative for our audience. The time was quite constrained for demo and other features which we want to show the audience from the tool.
So I think the next step for the audience is to look at contact us, and we'll put you across to Timeline PI for any queries you have got. We'd also like to, let you know that we have another webinar happening on 8th of August on change management. How is change management impacting the journey in the RPA? Please register on the website and we'll send you the link. But I would like to thank again Craig for his time today. It was a very informative session today, and we wish him all the best in his new role as a lead for Australia and New Zealand for Timeline PI. Craig, wish you all the best, and thanks again for your time today.
No, thanks, Mohit, and thanks to the Mindfields team as well, and the attendees. Hopefully we shared some really good insights. Would love to hear further and provide some more detailed demonstrations material. Visit our website, visit the our YouTube channel. There's a raft of information up there, both not only promotional, but enablement material as well. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, and I want to add there, like we find the videos very useful at your website, Craig, to learn about the tool. I think it's quite self-learning.
Yeah, that's the whole pretense. Once again, the founders, want to the whole democratizing of IT. This is a tool for the business, and hence the enablement. We've got a public knowledge base on our website. We've got a really comprehensive YouTube channel. And yes, it's all about not only just promoting the product, but it's enabling the users to effectively use the platform.
Thanks, Craig.
Cool. Thank you. I hope that went all right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jackie and Ashish.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Ashish.